In this lesson, we're going to be looking at the basics of unwrapping and how to apply this to our wooden beam. So the first thing we've done is create a cylinder and put a couple of insets in the top and bottom. And this is just to explain exactly what unwrapping is. So if you can imagine splitting this into a net. If you don't know what I mean by net, it's that thing you got taught at school, hopefully. We're going to Google. So this is a net of a cube. If you can imagine a cube unfolded like this, obviously we don't need the wings, that's used to stick it together, but this is how you would unfold a cube and put it together from just one single piece of geometry. And the idea of unwrapping is to create the same effect from your geometry of your model. We don't always have to stitch them together, by the way. That's just dependent on what the model is and what it is you're trying to do. But for now, that's just a simple way of explaining it. So a quick way of showing it, we'll add a UVW mapping clear to get rid of any legacy stuff. And we'll add a UVW unwrap modifier. And the first thing we need to do is, the way I try and look at all models is as if they are a cylinder. So if you took it to the bare basics, you would need a top edge, a bottom edge, and an edge along one of these verticals, and you would split it into three pieces. So we had a top piece, a bottom piece, and one that wraps all the way around the outside and is stitched together along this edge. Common sense, depending on your cameras. If our camera's looking this way, then obviously I would want the edge stitched at the back where we're never going to see it. That's just something you have to decide upon. Now obviously UVW unwrapping isn't always this simple, but we just convert edge selection to seams, open the UV editor, and we'll click element mode, select all of our polygon, all of our elements, Control A, and press reset peel, and then we have it. There's a bottom piece, a top piece, and our piece around the outside that's stitched together along this seam, which is this outside edge stitched to this outside edge. So it's been unrolled flat. If we stick a checker map on this, we can see that it's been, oh, apologies, I was trying to change the tile in there. It's 20. We can see that it's been unwrapped perfectly. There's no stretching in our checker map. Obviously you would have stitching issues around this top edge and bottom edge if you wanted the texture to be smooth. And that's where you'd have to go in and paint it in Photoshop, but this is just a great way of unwrapping for more architectural based textures, so you'd get the correct tiling around the outside of the model. So once we've done that, we can go back and select our beam. Now what I've done, we have an unwrap on this. I've taken that beam, deleted the unwrap, and we'll isolate this and work on here. So again, UV mapping clear, unwrap modifier, edge selection, and we'll start with the basics of pretending this is a cylinder. So we need some outside edges, and we can loop that. So that was our, sorry, I'm going to go into orthographic mode. I find it a lot easier to unwrap in this. So that was our top face. This is our bottom face in inverted commas. We'll just pick one of the top edges as our seam. So obviously this, now the four faces around the outside would be unwrapped flat and stitched together at this edge. Now, I know for a fact that this isn't going to work because of how our geometry is from putting all the dents and stuff in it. It unwraps a little bit bowed. I could show you that. So we'll convert these, open in the editor, select all, and reset peel. And that's not too bad actually. Before it was coming out quite bowed. But, you know, it could do with straightening up. You know, we can try and stick a quick planar map on it, and then a quick peel. As you can see, that makes it far too curved. We can try the straighten selection, which hasn't worked. So we can go back to where we were before. select all, reset peel. We can try and straighten it again from that, which just isn't working. We can curve that around, straighten it up a bit. I think that's actually, no, I'll tell you what, we're going to do it the long way around just to get it straighter, because this is what happened first time around. So I was fully expecting it to be a little bit curved. That's not what I want, because I'd sit and have to go and sit and move verts one by one. So we'll go back into this, we'll select our edges again, and we'll split those. We'll split that one piece into the 4 edges that we want, because we're going to be creating a texture that's going to resolve where the edges meet anyway. So it doesn't matter if there's seams along these edges, our texture is going to smoothly flow between the two. There's going to be no breaking point. As you'll see in here, if you unwrapped it, our edges would run along these parts where we've already painted in the texture to fix that. But we'll go over that in a later lesson. So we're going to split it into 4. We've selected those, convert to seams, and now we've split it into 4 pieces, or 6 pieces altogether. So we'll control all, and we will reset the peel for that, and that straightens these edges up a little bit better. So we're going to make this window bigger so we can see. I'm going to, in the rotate mode, I'm just going to straighten these a touch. Some of them are still a little bit bowed. We can try and straighten them, just see if it's going to work, which it's not. But we can put our planar maps on these now. Quick planar map just to straighten them up. And we can see if our straighten selection tool is going to work for any of these. So that looks quite straight itself. These just need rotating back. The planar map just adds the same basic UV mapping coordinates as a UVW map does. So it just maps it straight flat. I know that that needs a planar map in the Y, but the quick planar map already knows that and it applies it. So we'll straighten all these up to where we need them to be. And then we need to stitch them together to create a single piece again. So we go into edge selection, and we need to select one edge and find out where that opposing edge is stitched to. So we can see that it's stitched to where this blue one is picking up, but obviously these are the wrong way around. So we need to go back, select this, rotate it 180 degrees. We'll put our angle snaps on to make that easier, and then go back into edge selection. Apologies. And now we'll see that that is now correctly opposite the opposing face, or the opposing edge. So what we'll do is we'll bring these a bit closer together. Whether this makes any difference or not, I'm not sure, but this is just something that I do. Just to hopefully solve any issues. And we'll go back into our edge selection, and you can see those edges are the ones that need stitching together. We can loop that, and we'll just double check that it's looped all the way around. And oh, apologies. And we can use the stitching tools. So stitch selected, I always put the bias to 0.1, and then we can align clusters. We can turn that off, and although align clusters on this one doesn't look too bad, we'll keep that on. We'll scale clusters, and that should fix that. Sometimes align clusters needs to be switched off because it stops geometry overlapping, but that seems to have stitched them together quite well. And now we can see that this edge is stitched to this edge. And if we were to put a checker map on that, we would now see that the checker follows around the edge correctly. And that's the idea, is to get the texture to follow around the edge smoothly. Now we've done that for one, we can select our edges again, find the next one. Where's the opposing face? So we need to grab this top one and pull it down to here. And hopefully those edges should line up correctly. Yep, they do. So we'll loop that. Just double check the loop has gone all the way around again. And then using the tools, stitch selected. Just check align clusters. And then scale clusters. That seems to be working okay. So we'll OK that. And that is now stitched those two edges together. And you'll see the mapping is now correctly going over the edge, so you can see where that checker, the black square, goes over. And we just need to carry on and do one more. Make sure this is in the right place, which it's not. So we need to grab this one and rotate it around 180 so it matches in the same place. We'll just move that a bit closer. Again, line it up. We can, oh, sorry, that was element selected. We can pick this edge. Yep, it's in the correct place. Loop it, tools, stitch selected. We can just have a look at where align clusters does. Does that bring it a bit close, or does it keep it straight enough? It does, and scale it, just brings it in a bit more. Press OK, and now we have, oh, apologies, I missed out one set of edges. That's what I kept saying about checking the loops, which I didn't do. So now we can loop it again, and we'll quickly do the same thing. Stitch selected, just double check those. That seems to be stitching them okay, and press OK. And now this has this one outside edge where the model is stitched. The checker pattern flows smoothly through the other edges, and this edge will just be solved with our tileable texture. Hopefully that's a brief insight into unwrapping. You know, it can be very complicated, it can be quite simple, it all depends on your geometry, but hopefully I've shown you how to fix any problems you might have with things not unwrapping straight because of the geometry you've added into it. I'm guessing, it's just a guess, that it's all because of all these weird chamfers and dents and things that I've put in, which is why it doesn't straighten up unless you break it into the individual faces. And the next thing we're going to look at is just adding a little bit of detail into the struts for the beams.